Hi, it's Michelle Morand here. I'm here for day 2 of our talk about anxiety and why you might be feeling anxious and what to do about it. So yesterday we talked about anxiety that's arising from present day stuff, and I gave you a little rating scale to help you to better understand and have more empathy and compassion for yourself for why you're feeling the way that you are, and also to start to actually be able to identify true solutions to your problem. So today we're going to talk about stressors from your past and worrying about the future and what to do about that. The solution is actually quite similar for past and future stuff. Just a couple of questions that you want to be asking yourself that are a little bit different. So we think about what it means when we're anxious about something from our past. Really, what's happening when we're reflecting or ruminating, remembering something from our past. And maybe it was a conversation I just had that somebody seemed angry with me, or that I feel kind of weird or awkward about what was said or about my part in it. Could be something I'm remembering from 10 years ago. But ideally, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to figure out what it is about that particular situation that I'm either not proud of or that I'm concerned about experiencing again. Another way of saying that in counselor speak is, what needs did I have in that moment that aren't being met for me now? So when I'm thinking about that conversation that I just hung up and I'm feeling awkward about this thing that I said, what is it about that? What is it about that thing that I said or the way that person responded that's triggering me to feel unsettled? In other words, did I say something that I regret? Or was there just a strange response from this person that I don't quite understand, and I need a little bit more information from them to make sure that they heard me or understood me correctly? But let's look at something that might be, 10 years back, and we're sitting here and we're remembering it. If I'm remembering something from 10 years ago and that's triggering feelings of anxiety, the reality is that event was traumatic for me. You may have dismissed it or discounted it. Other people may have done that to you about this particular thing, and you might not think much of it. But frankly, if something from years ago is still triggering you to have a visceral response of distress now, that means there's trauma associated for you with this particular event, and some healing needs to happen. The good news is the healing that usually needs to happen with past trauma or past stress is simply that you need to be able to absolutely trust yourself. That if you ever found yourself in a similar situation to that again, that you would handle it in a way that provided you with a greater sense of confidence and security. Okay? So sometimes that's not possible. If you were lost somebody, heaven forbid, in a car accident, or you were sexually assaulted, you can't plan for that. You can drive more carefully, but really you can't. The brain does get caught up a lot when it has to deal with trauma in self-blame. So it's important for you to be honest with yourself. Is the stress that I'm carrying about this event from my past really just my brain's way of helping me to feel more powerful by blaming me for what happened? It's like a child, for example, in an abusive situation will often come away from that until they receive support and therapy, feeling like somehow there was something wrong with them, something not good enough, or something that they did to attract or bring on that abuse. And it's part of the brain's survival mechanism, this concept of self-blame. The whole goal being that if I am responsible for those horrible, painful, icky, awful things that happened to me, then somehow I can prevent them from happening again. It's important, in fact, it's critical for your well-being that you do not let yourself continue to fall into that trap if that resonates for you. It's really important that you are honest with yourself about what power you did and did not have to influence those events, and that you set about working to use the power that you do have, certainly, to prevent that from happening again, but that you're also very compassionate with yourself about sometimes horrible things happen to good people. Sometimes there is no rhyme or reason. Sometimes it's got nothing to do with anything that you did. And our job then is to rise above it and to flourish in the face of that trauma. And I can speak to that from personal experience, both the stress and the rumination and the overcoming and the flourishing. But a big part of that overcoming for me was looking at the things that I then began to do to myself, the ways in which I mistreated myself or allowed other people to continue to mistreat me because I had been mistreated and felt worth less. So, a lot of the reason why we're carrying anxiety about past stuff is because we do not trust ourselves to handle a present moment situation. If that thing happened again, we don't trust ourselves to handle it well. So, those are the life skills that you need to build, and that's what I'm here to help you do. So, I want you to do a little data mining for yourself and ask yourself, yeah, what are those situations that I ruminate on from my past? And what are the things that I would absolutely need to know I'm going to be able to handle in a different way or respond to differently if it were to happen again in order for me to feel peaceful? There will be answers to that in your head when you ask yourself those questions, and write them down, bring them to our next Zoom class, show up in Facebook, let me know, or by all means, you can, of course, book a one-on-one consultation with me and we can talk that through privately. But I want you to be asking yourself those questions because you have so much power right here, right now, over whether those past events from yesterday or 20 years ago continue to affect you. You have power over that, even if you feel you don't. And I want you to be wielding that power with as much confidence and deftness as possible. So let me help you with that. Ask yourself those questions. When it comes to future stuff, the solution is pretty close to the same thing, although of course we're dealing with future things. So you want to be, when you're thinking about something that is perhaps going to happen next week or even in 2 hours, or maybe 5 years down the road, and it's causing you to feel distress, that again is a sign that there's some part of you that doesn't trust you to be able to handle that with dignity and respect for yourself, and to respectfully assert yourself in that situation. And to be fair, sometimes we're imagining something coming in the future that is legitimately unsettling, new, important, not in our control, like a surgery or something like that, for example. That's legitimate. And if you ask yourself those questions about, what is it that I'm imagining, and does it tick those boxes that we talked about from yesterday of new, important, not entirely in my control? If so, then you'll understand that at least a part of that stress is legit and it's coming from the newness, the importance, the lack of control that I feel. But even then, you can then start to validate that for yourself. You can start to acknowledge that, and probably you can find some places in each of those categories of new, important, not in your control, where actually you can have more control, where you do have more familiarity with this thing than you realize. So you can certainly please make a list of the things that you're ruminating on in the future, worrying about coming down the pike, and see which ones fit that box. For the stuff that doesn't, for the stuff that's just kind of worrying, I want you to again stop and ask yourself, what is it when I think about this event, seeing that person or having that meeting or call or dealing with that issue? What is it that would have to happen, however unlikely, in order for me to feel peaceful about that? You will have an answer. Yes, there might be a voice that comes up and says, why the hell are you even bothering? That's never going to happen for you. But that's okay. That's where we can kick into, what is your intention in saying that? And what's important about that, so that you can really fully understand the true intention of that part of you that's saying, don't look there, don't look there, don't look there. Because usually that part is really just trying to prevent us from getting our hopes up or from getting hurt. And unfortunately, the natural consequence of listening to that part of our voice that says don't look is that we continue to feel just as anxious all the way through until that thing happens. And it usually goes just the horrific way we anticipate because we did nothing to prepare. It's like watching the train wreck happen when we could have just pulled the lever and stopped it. So I'm here to help you pull that lever. So when you're thinking about future stuff, do ask those questions. Is it new, important, not entirely in my control? Get clear with yourself about the anxiety that's natural and healthy that anybody would have, and start to look for solutions to those things. And then also really just ask yourself, what would have to happen in order for me to feel peaceful? However unlikely, what would I need to know that I'm going to do, or how I'm going to take care of it? What would I need to be able to trust the other person or people or circumstance would do or not do? I want you to get as clear as you can with that. And then by all means, please bring it to the Zoom chat, to the Facebook group, or connect with me directly about that. And for your own personal process, make some notes about something that you could do. What could you do, even if you're not sure that you could actually pull it off? But technically, what could a human being do to actually help achieve that outcome that you're imagining, that peaceful one, the one that would allow you to be thinking about that thing and feeling just minimal stress? Or the stress that's associated with the newness of the thing, but not making a mountain out of a molehill or assuming that you're not going to be successful. So much of life is about really just observing what you are thinking and feeling and where those thoughts and feelings are coming from, bringing yourself back to the reality of this present moment and what you're truly capable of. There's so much incredible power, and that's where our peacefulness and our inner strength reside. That's where our confidence to address things with people and feel secure comes from. So we want you to be spending as much time in this basket as possible. And so really what I want you to start to do just naturally as you go throughout your day is just be stopping and noticing, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling peaceful or not right now? And if the answer is not, I want you to start asking yourself these questions that I've been teaching you throughout this program, and especially today. What was I thinking about? Was it a past thing or a present thing or a future thing? And you now have a set of questions that you can ask yourself regardless. And notice how similar they are. You're not going to go wrong with this. You're going to definitely get in the ballpark if you just start asking, what am I imagining happening? And then what's going to happen? And then what's going to happen? Like, how deep down the rabbit hole did my brain just go? And what else could happen? What would I like to see happen? What would my ideal outcome be? What would have to happen in order for me to feel peaceful? Those 4 questions are the same question, just with different wording. So you don't need to ask all 4. Just pick the one that resonates most for you. I personally love the what would have to happen in order for me to feel peaceful question. And I think that gets us right into the bullseye zone and allows us to know what we need. It might feel like there's a Grand Canyon between where you are now and where you know you'd ideally like to be for that peaceful place, but that's what I'm here for, is to help to show you it's not really a Grand Canyon. You're not that far away, and to help to guide you there. So let me be there for you. Reach out, and I'll see you tomorrow.